Hello, everybody. Welcome at my YouTube channel. Today I have very special guest, Valentina Palacio-Castaneda. And I hope I'm pronouncing it well, but I see smile. So welcome at my YouTube channel, Valentina. And I'm really happy that you accepted to be my guest in this Agile 15 minutes interview. So how are you in general today?
I'm very good. I'm very good. A little bit cold today, but I'm good and I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And especially because, which I will already present in the question number number one as a beginning, that we met recently at the TPI Animal Free Workshop. So that's why when we had opportunity to shortly introduce to each other, all participants, your intro brought my attention. And especially because you bring IP to animal-free research. So today I'd like to ask actually Valentina, and we're going to talk more and dive deeper about animal-free innovation, but also about IP and her path. So according to the I think to your path, when I was following it a little bit, looking at your LinkedIn, I would like to ask you, what was your personal mission after achieving PhD to become the IP analyst and the prestigious institute OnCode in Netherlands?
Yes, thanks. It's a very good question, actually. So since I was doing my even master's research, I worked already with organs on chips and tumors on chips, which was later than my PhD project. And I really, really enjoyed doing the research. I was very happy in the lab. But at the same time, I always felt like everything that we were doing, even though it was very cool, it would never really reach the society, or it would not reach the patients. And that was always like a nagging question I had in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was not like feeling like you make social impact, right?
Yes, yeah. I felt like my research would be published, and maybe it did have a small impact in the scientific community. But that was kind of as far as it would get. Then afterwards, another new model would be developed, and then mine would be forgotten, and then the technology moves on, but it never really reaches society, and also not like the final application you envision from the beginning. So I really wanted to go into a career path that would sort of bridge those two, like science, the academic science, but also how to bring it to society. So I started looking into tech transfer offices, and there was this opportunity about becoming an intellectual property analyst, and I'm also training as a patent attorney within OnCode. And it is really like the first step that you need to take in order to valorize, so to give value to your scientific results, to protect that intellectual property you are generating in the lab. And this is like a first step so that you can actually add some value to this technology, so other people will be willing to invest in it, develop it further, and then actually reach the final user that you think of in the lab.
Very good. And I think that you bring this also your background and your path a little bit, that you actually did contact TTO offices. So that perhaps can be also a tip for anybody who wants to follow your path, right? Once achieving PhD. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, tech transfer officers or offices, or knowledge transfer offices, but also the patent attorney offices. I know they're constantly in the lookout for young talent. So yeah, that's also an alternative path to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, good to know. And good to know that you bring this social impact. That's what I really like about your personal mission here. Okay, then we go to question number 2, which is, I think, as a follow-up of question 1, but diving a little bit deeper in the technology organ on a chip, which I know everybody's hype about in academia, but also in industry. And you as a PhD student already was working on organ on a chip, even tumor on a chip, which is very impressive, I found. So you were very much engaged in developing already this animal-free 3D in vitro models, right? Innovative models. So based on your knowledge and animal-free experience, Valentina, my question number 2 is to you: how should we proceed with the organ on a chip, in vitro model, animal-free model, to successfully valorize it?
Yes, so this is also a very good question. And of course, I am just one person with an opinion about this, right?
But that matters, as we discussed before.
Yeah, and it's coming from like my experience in academia, and now my experience in a tech transfer office, kind of in with intellectual property. So, and as part of Young TPI, right? So what I've seen is that in the field there's a lot of new technologies being developed, and first within the field there's this disconnection between engineers who can make really nice, interesting chips, devices, and then the biologists who can actually use them, but they don't sort of dare to use them because they don't communicate. So the engineers can make really complicated stuff or things that could replicate an organ, and then they validate them in a very simple way, which is kind of not enough for the biologists to actually trust the technology. So it's not being used by the...
So it's like lack of trust, right? And this lack of interdisciplinary communication, right? Which everybody also start talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there is a need for what you say, the interdisciplinary collaboration. This was also quite rooted in my PhD thesis. I spoke a lot about this because I had a very interdisciplinary project, and we could talk with the engineers about the things we needed for our model, for our biology questions, and they could then give us solutions from the engineering point. And sometimes it was the simplest thing and not like this very complicated, cool device that they would have in mind. So that's one of the points. So if there's more communication within disciplines, then I think better models will be developed. But also not creating new things just for the sake of creating them, but really thinking, okay, what is the application that this will have? Sometimes you just want to answer very basic questions, and that's also okay. But if you want something to really be translated to a patient, for example, or to like a clinical use, then think, okay, how is my model going to be used later on? And am I making something that will actually reach a patient or the society?
Exactly. Yeah. Or industry will be interested, right? Because that's what you have to think behind.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm coming to question number 3. Although, as I said, I would have multiple questions. Perhaps we'll write, as I said, article about this together to elaborate more on it, because I think could be very valuable. So the question number 3 is about regarding intellectual property, IP, as an inventor. So taking us as a, I put here in category of inventors, academic scientists, right? Startups, industrial, also R&D sector, right? Working on innovation. And independent, perhaps, inventors, right? That also is possible, of course, as a scientist entrepreneur. Also, that is also part of it. So we care as inventors about the patentability in animal-free innovation, because today we talk about this very important, I think, hopefully growing sector in academia, but also industry, and I hope also as a result of academic industrial partnerships. So what, according to you, from your perspective, are the 3 top challenges in the patentability of animal-free research?
Yes, so I think I would start with the fact that there's a lack of knowledge about intellectual property, and especially at the PhD master level. When you are in academia, there's quite a lack of knowledge about how to proceed with this, how to protect something that you generate in the lab. So I think that would be the first challenge, to really educate people in this topic. Then the second one is, when you think about patentability, is you need to look at if it's novel, so it's something that has never been done before, and if it is inventive, so nobody else would come up with this. And because this is quite a crowded field, a lot of people are creating new models, new organs on chips, new organoids, new models that could replace animals, and these are being published constantly. So it takes away the novelty, right? But also because so many people are working in it and then just publishing it, then it makes it a little bit more obvious for someone to just come up with something similar. So that would be a challenge that we always look at in terms of patentability. And the third one would be, besides it being novel and inventive, then to be unique, so to really differentiate from the other ones. And I think this is really important, more from a perspective of scalability, so that you actually have a model that could be used by a researcher in the lab, but also by pharma at a large scale, right? And that you can have a model that could have the versatility of answering different research questions. And maybe it doesn't need to be the same model, because sometimes companies will also try to oversell a product by saying, well, you can do everything, but
it would be great. But I think EMA, so regulatory, would have some questions.
So just working towards, like, in collaborations, towards a model that could answer different questions, that's complex enough but not so complex that no one will know how to set it up in their own lab. And that it's still scalable, that can answer different questions with different cell types and different disease models. That would be so, and that it is unique. So that would be sort of like the challenges I see for patentability. So really, first starting with the knowledge of the inventors, that they actually can and should protect the intellectual property they are generating. Then creating things that are really novel and inventive, and then having them also be unique, and that could be applied in very different research questions.
Very good. Thank you very much. I like that you bring unique, because that's what, once I'm 7 years as a startup in Leiden Bioscience Park, it always comes back this question from investors when you pitch certain, prototype or project, that, what's unique in your approach, or what's unique in your prototype. This uniqueness comes back every time. And I think this is important to pay attention to it once you start developing and investing energy and time and money in it.
And especially when you are, again, in such a crowded field. But I think it's more like, if you want to be unique, I think it's good to then start with collaboration, to really talk to others, rather than saying, okay, this is like, I just want to make this very different thing, very unique, and developing it alone, but really talking between biologists, engineers, and everyone else.
And definitely the industry, because I think
industry, regulatory agencies, having all the key players there. And I think that will really have an impact in the uniqueness of such a system.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's been a lovely talking to you, and learning also, not just listening, but also learning based on your experience, because you have such, targeted experience and also IP already experience. So I really like, your vision, but also your perspective and your tips also in this IP path to bring animal-free research, especially to the market. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. And it was also very nice talking to you.
Oh, great to hear that. I still see your smile. So every time I see smile on my people I interview, I'm already very happy about. So that we can, in very nurturing environment, talk about this, not the stressful one, but very nurturing and very open, understanding different sides. It's also what I represent as an agile person, taking different perspective, learning from other people and understanding their perspective. So I wondered, Valentina, if there would be some people which once watching this interview would like to really contact you and ask you perhaps for some advice, or even organolepship or IP, or there can be many angles regarding what you shared with us today. Is it possible to maybe that they can contact you via LinkedIn?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I'm always open to answer messages in LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest way to contact me, and I'm always happy to talk to new people with new ideas as well.
Great, and that can be also spin-off, right, for some potential collaborations between OnCode, perhaps Institute, and other main key players. Yes,
in the future, yes, for sure.
Yes. Okay, great. Wonderful. So thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure. And,
thank you.
And have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.